wrong for me to pass any judgment on that. I think all that I can say is that we've dealt with Gerald Carroll in good faith. I believe he was and is very sincere about his wish to honour his obligations to the university, that the university as a result has suffered from what has gone on, and therefore there must be an element of public interest in this.
Despite his bankruptcy, Carroll managed to stay in his flat in Eaton Square, and he kept some of his prized possessions. Now he spends endless hours pondering the people he knew.
I've got here Peter Townsend, who was a non-executive director of Carroll Aircraft Corporation and the Farnborough Aerospace Company.
The places he went.
That's my Russian Star Medal. It's a replica of the original Victory Star that was produced by Joseph Stalin. There were 8 or 9 produced for all the leaders of the Western Allied nations, Churchill and Roosevelt and so forth.
And the deals he did.
And that was a gift by Mr. Nagibin, who I had a joint venture, a joint company agreement with in the early 90s.
Still wondering where all the money went.
At the end of the day, you know, who was Gerald Carroll really anyway? And all these mad stories about sort of offices blowing up and, you know, personal possessions disappearing and millions of pounds disappearing. I mean, who would actually really believe that? So that's what I meant, really, that I was vulnerable by virtue of the way that I conducted my life and the way that I structured the systems and the reporting structures with a close-knit circle of people that I trusted.
Sky News has spoken to some of the key people who worked for the Carroll organisation. None would be interviewed on television. They divide into those who believe something very fishy went on before the group collapsed, and those who insist Gerald Carroll was the victim of the Hatfield debacle, the recession, and a bank which wanted to cut its losses. HSBC told Sky News, HSBC always regrets the failure of any business, but it is confident that it has acted totally properly in respect of Mr. Carroll and his group of companies on all occasions.
One can see a circumstance where an outsider, a cynical outsider, might say, well, okay, he was a successful businessman, but in fact what happened was he got overextended, he was negligent, perhaps he had a few bad deals.
Whatever.
You know, a bit like Robert Maxwell, got in over his neck, he's gone bust, he's blaming everybody else.
Yes, possibly. Possibly, but yes, but I've got to say, you've got me stumbling about in deep shock. I mean, it is the most bizarre experience. I mean, you know, everything is vaporizing in front of you, and then after it's vaporizing in front of you, because you can't vaporize hundreds of millions of assets and I mean, the art collection alone is 5,000 items. You know, it can't all get switched off like a bicycle shop. You've even got collateral explosions going on. And all that is affecting him.
No, but I mean, the central argument is your allegations of criminality versus a suggestion that this is just the way businesses go sometimes.
You mean at the time?
Well, in general, that
you mean
the disaster of the Gerald Carroll story, the foundation story, could just be that the business went so.
Because no one had a term of reference who I was.
Not that there was crime, as it were.
Yeah, but there's no term of reference, so I'm trying to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. You're probably right. I mean, I stumbled into a police station. I mean, who the hell's Gerald Carroll? You know, can I really phone up?
What I'm saying is now you're absolutely convinced this wasn't.
Well, I was always convinced that something terrible had happened, but even me as a victim couldn't relate to what I now have and what the authorities and I, you know, if you take the Inland Revenue and ourselves. I mean, predominantly it's Carroll Foundation and the Inland Revenue. I can put my hat on the Inland Revenue and the Carroll Foundation, controlling, beyond any reasonable doubt, voluminous material that shows beyond any reasonable doubt, or any doubt whatsoever in certain instances, that major criminal activities have been inflicted by certain individuals, certain known individuals, vis-à-vis the Carroll Foundation, the underlying global group structures, both here, in Ireland, Europe, former Soviet Union, and also Australia and America, as well as my own personal interest, including the destruction of personal probate records, pension documents, trust records that solicitors have been removed, and destruction of records at my office.
So in a word, this is crime, not business failure.
This is crime.
Gerald Carroll can identify the fraudsters who he believes have robbed him of almost everything he possessed. He's sent those names to the police, and he's given the Serious Fraud Office boxes and boxes of what he calls incontrovertible evidence. The SFO is still sifting through those papers, but so far there have been no arrests. It is one of the great business mysteries. Did Gerald Carroll's empire collapse through a mixture of bad luck and bad business, or was he a victim, systematically defrauded of millions and millions of pounds?